It's time! The top 10 Marvel Legends of 2020, as voted on by me. Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel. Today on the channel, I got my best dress shirt on. And why, you say? Well, it's because we're doing the top 10 Marvel Legend figures of 2020. My personal top 10 list of my favorite Marvel figures that have came out in the last year. And for all your Marvel Legend needs, hit up Big Bad Toy Store. Link in the description below. So, like I said, we're going to go through our top 10, my favorite top 10 of 2020. But we're going to start off with a couple of honorable mentions. That's where you got to start. There's a few that were just outside the bubble that I wanted to give a little bit of recognition to. And in no specific order, I'll do 3 bonus ones. So, one really deep cut that I brought out here is Rage. From the New Warriors. There's old Rage right there. I love big figures, you guys know that. I also love masked characters. I love the body on this one. I love the vest on this one. I thought this was an extremely solid figure as far as an honorable mention. Released early on in 2020, but a very, very solid figure in my opinion. Probably one that's not on everybody's list. There's definitely going to be some maybe head scratchers for some of you guys out there, but like I said, this is my favorite list. Knowing how I collect, my life experiences, who I like, stuff like that. So just make sure you got that extra caveat in the back of your head when you're doing this. And I would love to hear your guys' top 10 list in the comments below. So make sure you keep a track and work on your list as well as along we go. Other honorable mentions for me is Wolverine from the Wolverine Professor X 2-pack. This was Hasbro Pulse exclusive. Nothing too special about this one. We've got a lot of Wolverines. We get a lot of Wolverines every single year. You guys know that. But what I like about this movie edition Wolverine is the bone, or not the bone claws, the claws have blood on them. That is deep for Disney, Hasbro, whatever you want to call it, Marvel. You don't see a lot of blood, especially on, the action figures. That's usually a no-no. But I do think they got away with it being a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. This wasn't released to everyday stores out there, so maybe that's how they skirt-tailed that, or maybe they just flew it under the radar. But I thought that was a great honorable mention, getting blood on a figure. I think that is extremely cool. We've wanted Wolverine with blood on his hands for so long. All right, next up, my last honorable mention is one I hope we see more of. It's a recent release here at the end of the year, just starting to hit store shelves right now, and that is the movie Venom figure. There you go, right there. Big figure. You know, as a kid of the 90s reading comic books, Venom was all the rage. No pun intended over here. Venom was a big deal, and it's still a big deal to this day with movies coming out. Venom 2, I think, is coming out maybe in 2021. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I found this figure to be very solid. A big figure in the regular release line. This isn't a Build-A-Figure. Very cool body, very cool size. I hope we see this, and I'd bet the house on it that maybe in 2021, maybe the back half, middle half of 2021, we will see a repaint with this in classic Venom colors, possibly on the Spider-Man Retro Wave carding. I think that's a slam dunk. That's going to be people buying that all day long. But I really like this Venom one. Say what you want about the Venom depiction in the movie. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I didn't have too much of a problem with it. I went in with a lot of reviews saying people hated the movie. I actually didn't mind it at all. I thought it was okay. Was it the greatest movie I've ever seen? No. Is it the worst? Far from it. So I like this Venom. So there you go. There's my 3 honorable mentions. Hopefully you guys will have some honorable mentions in your list as well. But now, let's get down to it. Start at number 10. We'll work it all the way down to 1. All right, kicking things off in the number 10 spot for me was from the Strong Guy Build-A-Figure wave. A very strong wave. I love that Strong Guy figure. A little Easter egg, he did not make the top 10 list, but I do love that Strong Guy Build-A-Figure. But number 10 for me is another deep cut. Probably not on a lot of people's top 10 list. Probably not even close to it. That's just my hunch out there. But it is Maverick I loved Maverick as a kid. He was an X-Men comic character, part of the Weapon X program, used in the X-Men animated series. You guys know that's near and dear to my heart. Probably a lot of people of a certain age. That's really where you found your deep love for the X-Men. Maverick was involved in that. Maverick was kind of like a G.I. Joe type character, you know, kind of a commando out there, had guns and stuff. I loved Maverick. I remember he had a limited edition series. He was one of my most wanted, requested Marvel Legends figures, so I was so happy in 2020 that we finally got a true Maverick put into the Marvel Legends line. But a very, very solid figure. A very, very underrated figure and even underrated character. I haven't kept up with Maverick over the years. I'm not sure what he's up to now, but I really enjoyed all the Weapon X type characters back in the day and still to this day. And that is why Maverick made number 10 on my top 10 figures of 2020. Number 9 on my top 10 Marvel Legends figures of 2020 is Pyro. Pyro was released in a 2-pack with Rogue. Very sleeper 2-pack. You don't see it around very often. I found it at GameStop of all places, but I don't believe it's going to the Walmarts, the Targets of the world. 2021, we might see wider release and maybe more readily availability of this pack. I guess we'll see on that one. But Pyro is another one of those X-Men animated series characters that was in that show. Also in the comic books and stuff like that. But I most fondly remember him from the X-Men animated series. Always liked Pyro. It's funny, ask yourself if you hear Pyro's voice, is it an English accent? It always is for me. But a very, very cool figure. One little flaw, one little gripe on that one is, you know, he doesn't shoot flames off of his hands. It comes out of his little canister things in his arm. Well, they gave him 2 fireball things that go over his hands. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I can really look past that. It's not terrible. I know some people that ruin the figure for. Not me. Pyro is one of my most wanted villains. Now his spot goes to Toad or Avalanche as far as villains I'd like to see hopefully in 2021. But I do like this Pyro. I think the pack on the back is cool. The wires on the side. It's a great homage to the early Toy Biz figure of the early 90s that I had. Very similar to this. As a kid, I bought 2 of those because after a while the wires broke off and I just couldn't be playing with a figure with the wires broke off. I had to get a new one. But this Pyro is solid. I like the color scheme. I like the figure. I like the head. The 2-pack release was a little weird with the Rogue. I'm still not 100% sure what that Rogue is from. But the Pyro I had to have, and that was what sold me on that pack. I would have liked to seen him in a regular Marvel Legends set, but I'm just happy at this point we got this figure. So number 9 on my top 10 Marvel Legends of 2020 is Pyro. We continue the countdown of the top 10, and we're at number 8. And that goes to Green Goblin from the Retro Spider-Man wave, which, to be honest with myself, that Retro Spider-Man wave and that packaging and the card back and the characters we got is probably the line of the year. For Marvel Legends, for sure, that was the line of the year for me. Hits you in the nostalgia feels, being a kid of the 90s that watched the animated cartoon, but also just the characters, the re-release of some characters we haven't got. I expect 2021 for that line to continue and to be even better with some more guys. Hopefully the Scorpions of the world. The Rhino, that's the one I need. Rhino, Smythe would be cool. Chameleon. There's a million enemies of Spider-Man and other Spider-Man we could get in that line. But the Retro Wave released, it was a re-release of the Green Goblin, but a much more animated colors. I really prefer this neonish green color to the darker shade of green we got back a couple years ago in this Marvel Legends series. I really like this one. I remember looking at the prototype pictures when this was announced, and I was kind of on the fence. I was like, I already got a Green Goblin. But getting this one in hand, and just the brightness of the green, and then also the eye color. I love the yellow bug crazy eyes. I think this is a very solid figure, and it takes a lot for a typical repaint re-release, whatever you want to call it, to get into a top 10, but that is how much I like this figure. Really the sleeper figure of the year for me, one I had no real thoughts about. I said, I'll get it just to complete the set, to going to be one of my top 10 figures of the year. So there you have it. That is the Green Goblin from the Retro Spider-Man wave. All right, we've hit the number 7 spot in my top 10 Marvel Legends of 2020, and that is Storm. This is the Storm from the Thunderbird Target 2-pack exclusive, available at Targets right now. hanging on those pegs hard. Could end up being the peg warmer of 2021, the way things are going in my area. I never in a million years would have thought that to be the case. Storm and Warpath, a great 2-pack. 2 70s giant-sized X-Men characters we needed an update from. Very happy to get this Storm. We've had a lot of Storms over the last year. We got the black and gray suit, the white suit, in the retro X-Men card. But this is the Storm a lot of people were looking for. Pinless joints on this one of the first early adapters of the pinless joint system with this Storm figure. Great hand effects, great different heads. How can you not display this one on a flight stand? This one screams to be on a flight stand. Hopefully I remember, but I'll try to put a link in the description below of the cheaper flight stands I use that I get off of Amazon. They're perfect for smaller characters and little characters. You're not going to be putting a big Build-A-Figure on these flight stands, but for the females and littler characters, they work great and they're cheap. I say it all the time, try to spend your money on your figures, not your stands if you can get away with it. So I'll try to remember to put a link in the description below for that. But this is a very, very strong Storm figure. Very happy we got this year. It's crazy to think. I looked at eBay prices a while back. In July, that Thunderbird Storm 2-pack sold for $500 on eBay. That was how bad people wanted that pack for Thunderbird and for Storm, of course. But that went for $500. Now they're everywhere at my local Targets. Targets had so many sales of, spend $50, get $10 off. You can get that 2-pack around $40 if you are patient. After clearance sales at the end of the year, for mid-January, early January, you're going to start seeing some clearances. I wouldn't be shocked to see this going down. So you long game players, you got a great opportunity to get that just after the holidays. So pro tip of the day, deal of the day, gotta get a deal. There it is. That's Storm. All right, everybody, we are at the number 6 spot in my top 10 countdown of Marvel Legends figures of the year 2020. And this is probably the one I'll get the most hate mail on, the most ugly emails, and people saying you've lost your mind. At number 6, from the most recent Gamerverse wave, Thunderstrike. I love Thunderstrike. I said it in my review. I know people don't like him. I know people don't like the character. And I know people, my figure hunt videos and other figure hunt videos out there, I'm pretty sure, you see a lot of peg warming on Thunderstrike right now. I don't know why. Thunderstrike's a big, muscular figure, almost wrestling, do we say, size. Would be great for wrestling customs if you do that kind of stuff. But I loved Thunderstrike as a kid. I remember Thunderstrike issue number 1. I'm a kid of the 90s. In the 90s, there was a million number 1s with new characters. Longtime people a little older than me hated that stuff, and I understand it because I probably would as well. But being at the age I was in, being trading cards and stuff like that, Thunderstrike was a big deal for me and my friends in the early 90s. I liked Thunderstrike. I thought it was cool to add to the Thor, more Thor-type characters out there. I had no problems with it. So just like Maverick in the X-Men set, this was another deep cut I was hoping we would get, and I was shocked to see it come to fruition in 2020. So very happy to get this Thunderstrike figure. I think it was a very cool figure. A lot of reuse from that Rage figure that was in the honorable mentions, but a very cool figure. I know some people don't like the screaming head scan on him. I love it. I absolutely love this figure. I don't want a resting. Hey, if I could get an extra head, hey, that's great. I would take an extra head. But I am so cool with this screaming kind of mad Thunderstrike head. So there you have it. Another one, a one people are going to question me on, I'm sure. But for me personally, this is my personal list. You guys give me your list in the comments below. Thunderstrike hits the number 6 spot. All right, everybody, we've come to the halfway point. We are at number 5, and we go back to the Spider-Man Retro Wave. Like I said, probably the superhero wave of the year for me, just with the packaging, the character assortment. And number 5 for me from that wave is Electro. I needed a classic comic Electro, and I absolutely love this one. I love the green and yellow, the green and gold. I'm an Oakland A's fan. I got to support my team. He's got those colors going on. I always thought Electro was a very cool character. I love the hand effects. We've seen these a lot. We saw him with Storm just a little bit earlier. We've seen him in the Hasbro Star Wars line. I think these effect hands are really cool, shooting the lightning bolts out of his hands. I just think this is a really cool, it's simple but very detailed, if that makes sense. To me, when I look at this, it's a simple look, but very detailed. You know exactly what you're getting. You look at this, you have no history of this character, you know what he does. I think the sculpt came out beautiful, and like I said, just that Spider-Man 90s nostalgia that's in a lot of us, including me right now. We absolutely love this figure. So a very easy selection for me to be in the top 10 list. But coming in at number 5, that would be the Spider-Man Retro Wave Electro. All right, we're past the halfway point. We're on our way home to number 1. Hopefully you guys are jotting your selections down. You're going to leave them in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. A lot of good videos every day, and you'll see me unboxing figures throughout the year. 2021 will be a fun year as we unbox, and at the end of the year we'll select, just like we did in 2020. So at the number 4 spot, our first Build-A-Figure in the line. One of 2. There's one more Build-A-Figure to come. But this one is another one. This is my personal opinion. You just got to remember that, guys. This is me. This isn't voted on by other people. This is my personal top 10 of 2020. And this number 4 spot goes to the Sugar Man from the Age of Apocalypse line. Once again, Age of Apocalypse for me, when I was a kid reading comics, was groundbreaking. I absolutely loved it. I ate it up with a fork and a spoon, and sometimes I would even hit my local KFC and I would grab a spork. That's how invested I was in the Age of Apocalypse as a kid. I loved it. And I was so happy to see the announcement that, hey, we're getting figures from the Age of Apocalypse. Now, we all know those did get clearanced out. That was probably one of the biggest peg warmers of 2020 as far as Marvel Legends go, and there's been no announcement for a Series 2. I would love a Series 2 of the Age of Apocalypse. Just finish off the main characters at least. Give us a hole on that. Maybe we'll get a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive box set of some figures. I don't know, but there's got to be a way for us to get the rest of that team, the rest of the major characters from the Age of Apocalypse. But my favorite one of the bunch was definitely the Sugar Man. I love big figures. I say it all the time. But this is a huge hulking figure. Just a diverse and crazy character. It's different than any other figure we got in 2020. It definitely deserves to be on every list, if you ask me. You got 4 hands. You got the hammer. Just the huge head. This is a solid figure. Take away maybe your bias if you don't like the Age of Apocalypse. You gotta admit this is a cool figure. They made this sculpt. It's never getting reused for anything else. There's nothing else you can use this for. He's a one and done character. But I'm very happy to get the Sugar Man as a Build-A-Figure. I thought it was genius. Kudos to the Marvel Legends team for this one. So he has hit number 4 on my list of favorites for 2020. Getting closer to that number 1 spot, we're down to number 3, and it's Wolverine. Probably my favorite superhero character of all time, if not, top 2 or 3. But Wolverine is a favorite of mine. As many kids in the 90s growing up, we loved Wolverine, and I still love Wolverine. I'm not super keen on the Hugh Jackman movie Wolverines. I like the movies. They're fine. They didn't change my life. I like the animated stuff, the comic book Wolverine. However, you guys saw in the honorable mentions, I had that Wolverine with the bloody claws in the suit. I also got another Hugh Jackman on my top 10 list, and this is number 3. This is the Amazon exclusive Wolverine movie edition. Some people don't like this figure. Some people think the one in the leather jacket that was released at stores is better than this one. Out of all the Wolverines released this year, this ended up being my favorite one. Sometimes less is more. There's no jacket. He's just got his wife beater on. He's got his claws. But I think this is the best head sculpt of all those movie Wolverine Hugh Jackman figures. I think this is the best one. And just the posability and the way he looks. I see this one and it just looks like fine art. It looks like a nice statue sitting on my desk. So this one is really cool. I don't think it's available anymore. It kind of came and went, and I haven't heard a lot of discussion since about this. But it was an Amazon exclusive, probably mid-2020, somewhere in there. But a very solid Wolverine, and actually one of my favorite Wolverines ever. Very strange. You never know what's going to hit you and what you're going to like. But just the simplicity of this one and just the looks. The pinless joints are really cool on this one. Just very solid. This Wolverine figure. Strongly recommended if you can somehow track one down, but he comes in at number 3. All right, number 2 on my list. We got the top 2. Number 2, we return to the land of Build-A-Figures. A figure I didn't really think much of when it was announced, but when I saw it in hand and when I built it and put it together and took pictures of it and played with it, really won me over. A deep sleeper cut of the year, but maybe for some, for me, the number 1 Build-A-Figure of 2020. And coming in at my number 2 spot of the whole thing is the Venomized Deadpool. We get a ton of Venoms. We get a ton of Deadpools. Yeah, it's a no-brainer that they brought them together as a Venomized Deadpool. Not sure yet where I'm going to put this in my collection. Maybe I'll put it with the rest of my symbiotes. I'm not sure. But just the size of this one, the Deadpoolness of this one, the Venom of this one, just it's very cool. The little things on here. It's like the stitching here where his... the black is the Venom symbiote, and then he's got the ripped version as the red of the Deadpool suit, the crazy tongue, the huge swords that he came with, the heavy mask. You guys know I love big figures. A very, very cool figure that we all didn't know we wanted, but we all really needed. This one's just kind of hitting the markets right now. I've had this for a few months, but I know Targets and Walmarts are finally getting this wave on a regular basis now. So a lot of people that have played the long game, you can probably track this one down at your local Walmarts, Targets, probably even Amazon as well, I'd imagine. But a very cool, and I thought this would have been at the end of my Build-A-Figure wave list, and as far as favorite characters of the year and stuff, but it went all the way up to number 2. Just a really cool conversation piece, one that really catches your eye on a shelf, and 2 of the biggest characters going today as far as Venom and Deadpool, and once again, 2 90s characters that I was in on the ground floor of, that I've been around a long time, a lot of my life. So also have that. So that's my personal opinion for number 2. Now we're going to get to it. We're going to get to number 1. Anybody have any guesses what the number 1 Marvel Legends figure of 2020 for me is? I don't know if any of you guys will be able to guess this one, but I went through the list. I checked it twice like a young Santa Claus, and this is what I came up with at number 1. All right, it's time for the number 1 figure from Marvel Legends in 2020, selected by me, old JKP, Kyle. My number 1 for 2020, a bit of a deep cut, one that's been a little bit hard to find in some areas. I found this maybe 5-6 months ago, and it never let go of my heart ever since. One of my all-time favorite characters, a character I fell in love with in the late 80s and early 90s, and that is the Legendary Riders series, Punisher. Can't beat this Punisher figure for me for 2020. My favorite figure. Still fairly hard to get out there at retail. I hope it gets more mass release because I think everybody needs this Punisher in their line, in their Marvel Legends lineup in their house. Very, very cool. Frank Castle, love him to death. Love the grittiness of this Punisher. I still say, it's funny, as I always tell people, they always say, what's your favorite Marvel movie of all time? I still say Punisher Warzone. The violence in that one is next level. I love that movie. I've probably seen it the most of all Marvel movies, which is crazy. But I love he comes with his Harley. We'll call it a Harley. But his black motorcycle. Fits great with the character. And then for those customizers out there, you can use this motorcycle for tons of different things. You can use it for your WWE Elite collectors. Use this for The Undertaker. You can use it for other characters, other Punishers, Wolverine. You can mix and match this thing. So that's a little added value to this figure I found. And then there's the Punisher. Different heads. I love the sawed-off shotgun. I love the machete. I love the helmet. It comes from that story arc where I think I never read it, but I heard it's supposed to be really good, about Punisher. He's fighting, got Thor, and I don't know. Cool storyline I heard. I forget what it's called, though. But this Punisher is very solid. The pinless joint system being used on the elbows and arms and stuff. I love the detail on the face, how he's all beat up there. Just very cool. And you can swap this head with your other Punisher figures. So you can customize what Punisher you want with this body. I like the more muscular Punisher body style here. Just very cool. And then the detail on the bike, the blacked out bike. A lot here for me that I love. And I kept coming back to this one saying, what's my top 10? What always pops? And this is the one that always popped as my favorite figure of 2020. And it's really grown on me as well. So very, very cool figure. Recommend picking it up. I think Targets are really the only place I'm seeing this one at. You don't really see the Legendary Rider series at Walmart. So make sure you're checking your Target stores. Usually down there on the bottom shelf, mixed within all the Squirrel Girl Legendary Rider figures, or Cosmic Ghost Rider, of course. But there it is. That is number one. That concludes the 2020 top 10 Marvel Legends figures of the year for me. But what I want to see is, what were your top 10 in 2020 for Marvel Legends? Some of these guys on your list, totally different list. I don't think anybody's going to have the exact same list as me. I'm sure I'm going to get some flack for maybe Maverick and Thunderstrike being in my top 10, but it's my list. It's my choice. I can do that just like you guys can too. So share your list with me. Let me know your top 10 for 2020. And that's all we got. I can't wait for 2021 Marvel Legends. I think Marvel Legends is kicking butt on all cylinders right now. They really are probably the best figure line of 2020 as a whole. You guys know I like a lot of wrestling lines. I like a lot of G.I. Joe lines. If G.I. Joe had a little bit better distribution and a little bit more figures and was around the whole year, that could be the line of 2020. We'll see what 2021 shows with the G.I. Joe line. But for this year, Marvel Legends knocked it out of the park with me. A lot of key, deep-cut characters, a lot of classic characters we wanted, and then, of course, guys like Punisher at number one. So you guys share with me your list. While you're sharing it, don't forget to like the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. And for the Marvel Legends Top 10 Figures of 2020, I'm Kyle. I'll see you guys real soon.